is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
I want to get into this Dolphin topic that I think some people aren't looking at, and again, I know why, because a lot of us have our minds made up. Some of us aren't willing to maybe admit, hey, maybe I gotta, look at this a little different or something like that. And some of you have Flo fired. I'm not happy with Flo. I worry that he can't build a staff. If he can't build a staff, he'll never win here. So I'm one of those guys that I'm pretty much off the Flo bandwagon. He's going to have to do a lot on the offensive side to convince me that he can get it done. And that's a real problem for him now for 3 years in a row. Now, he'll get an opportunity next year to try to fix it one more time with the offensive coordinator and the offensive line coach, and we'll see. But I want to show you something. I want to talk a little bit about the Dolphins and what's happening, what happened last night and what's been happening the last couple of, I would say, weeks. And it's kind of been developing this way. And I know a lot of people sometimes they've made their conclusions, they're looking at it, like you see Omar now, right? He's dead set on not giving, like Brandon Jones a little more credit than he deserves, because the kid has actually been playing well and been helping the team out. So I want to run something by you, because you start looking, all right? Christian Wilkins has had a good year. Emmanuel Ogbah has played really hard this year, man, and gotten and I think a guy that has kind of gotten a raw deal, because he's gotten so close. He's had so many pressures, and he just needs to pick up more sacks. But the effort has always been there. Got some batted balls too. Jerome Baker's been, a disappointment compared to last year. I get that. Van Ginkel is now starting to come around. Okay, and then you start looking at some of the young guys. Javon Holland is playing well and developing nicely. Brandon Jones is developing and helping this team out. You look at Jalen Phillips, young guy, developing, playing better and better every week. Love the energy he plays with. I love the enthusiasm that Jalen plays with. That's kind of the rookie thing that comes with it, but I like it, man. I think it's really, really important. And you start seeing that some of these young guys on defense are actually developing, and that draft class is not looking nearly as bad anymore, right? Because Waddle's played well, right? Jalen Phillips has played well. Javon Holland has played well. So you're starting to get some reaction from that draft, right? And then the year before, well, then, Brandon Jones is in that year before. Tua's in that year before. So you start looking at some of these guys that at least can show you a little something, and you start seeing like the light at the end of the tunnel. Now, where's the light at the end of the tunnel with the offensive linemen? So I could argue that with Flo and maybe even Josh Boyer, you've got better coaches on the defensive side of the ball than you do on the offensive side of the ball. So on the offensive side of the ball, you're still pathetic as an offense. You're still pathetic as an offensive line. You really can't get the running game going. Your quarterback is under a mountain of pressure practically on every down. I think last night is starting to prove what I've been talking about from the get-go. This is all about coaching, not about the front office, maybe not about coaching on the defensive side, because you've got Flo there. And now we're watching the defense starting to play well. And, last week we could say, well, the defense played well. And we could say, well, that's Houston. Well, this week it's different. This is a dude that's the enigma. Lamar Jackson is hard to solve. It's hard to stop that running game. It's hard to stop that RPO. It's confusing for people. And Lamar is lightning quick, dude. He's faster than every running back practically in the NFL. He's shiftier than pretty much every running back in the NFL. So he creates a whole different, imbalance for any defense that they have to face every week because nobody outside of Michael Vick has been able to run like Lamar Jackson does. And yet they shut him down. So I'm starting to see more of the bright side from the defensive side, and even some of the players. See, I like I told Omar yesterday, I think Jalen Waddle's a freaking star. He's just stuck in this crap ass offense that doesn't really showcase him. You put him in Green Bay, you put him somewhere with a real quarterback, put him in the Rams with Matt Stafford, put him, with Russell Wilson, and Jalen Waddle would have, 1,500 yards this season as a rookie. Okay, he would be an absolute freaking star somewhere else. And the fact that he makes plays after plays and has, I don't know how many first downs the guy has, but it must be about 107 of them. Okay, I mean it's so impressive. But overall, you look at the line, that's where you're hurting, dude. Gesicki plays no matter what. We're watching Jalen Waddle ball no matter what. But the O-line, that tells me that Pepe Le Pew can't do the job. That tells me that your offensive coordinators are just not good enough. They still don't move Tua around enough. And so maybe yesterday, some of that development is, okay, wait a minute, hold on a second. These drafts, you start looking at the defensive players, they're starting to develop. They're we want microwave. We want to put it in, and in 60 seconds, it's done. Well, Jalen Phillips is not going to be done in 60 seconds. Jason Taylor didn't become Jason Taylor until year 3. No matter what anybody tells you. Pat Surtain didn't become Pat Surtain until like year 3. No matter what anybody tells you. So it takes time. So now we're watching some of these defensive players develop, but we're not watching any of the offensive linemen develop. None. The guys that have been here 2 years, the guy that's only been here 1 year, none. Not one. What does that tell you? And then if they're constantly keeping the same 5, then that tells me that the other guys aren't good enough. They're even worse than these guys. Or the fact that they know they're the problem. I'm talking about the coaching. I'm talking about Flo knows he screwed up with Pepe Le Pew as your coach. And again, listen, we can all go back and forth, and we can talk about, hey, can Tua play? Can Tua not play? Chris Grier, should he be fired? Or Flo should be fired? Or fire both of them? And please get rid of Ross and have him pass the team over to the next guy. And whatever, some of you have made your minds up about all kinds of things, just like I have. We're human beings. But I think that as we're watching these next games develop here, okay, you've got, 8 games left, 7 games left, 7 games left. These next 7 games, if we continue with the trajectory of the defense and the young defensive players continue to show improvement, and then we see nothing from the offense, especially the offensive line, because really, what else is there? Waddle? And he's fine. He's not the problem. Then maybe it's coaching. Maybe it's what I thought it was from the get-go. It's not so much the front office. It's not so much Chris Grier. It's not so much anybody that made a personnel decision. It's maybe that Flo screwed up and has the wrong offensive coordinators again and has the wrong offensive line coach again. Well, I shouldn't say offensive coordinator wrong because Chan Gailey did a good job last year. But whatever. More often than not, he doesn't have the right guy at offense. And he certainly has not gotten the right offensive line coach. I'm just saying, let's see what happens over the next 7 weeks. If the young defensive players continue to develop and these linemen don't, then we know what really the problem is. Those guys probably are not that bad. And Eichenberg, I think they just have no confidence anymore too. I think they've been beaten down so much. They've committed so many penalties, and they have no confidence in the people coaching them that I think we have an offensive line that is mentally broken down. I think we need a new offensive line coach that comes in and rebuilds these guys from inside out, mentally to physically, because you don't dominate like you did at Notre Dame, and then all of a sudden you look like this in the NFL. I don't believe that. I'm sorry, I don't believe that. They produce linemen over there, you know? That's why I have a hard time believing what's going on. Even Michael Dieter was showing us something. In Wisconsin, they develop linemen. So I have a problem with this. And I've had it from the get-go with the coaching. And now, last night, I'm watching these defensive players, and I'm going, well, wait a minute. Some of these young guys from these draft class, Waddle, what's it called? I'm looking at Jalen Phillips. I'm looking at Javon Holland. I'm going, well, wait a minute. Some of these guys are developing. Eichenberg doesn't have any coaching. And look, there's obviously the one defensive player that we're not seeing is Igbenogany. And he's got 2 starters in front of him. So until he actually gets real playing time, the kid will never develop and really find out if he can play or not. And right now he'll be looked at as a bust because the little that he has played, it hasn't been good. But he hasn't had enough playing time. He hasn't had enough coaching at it so he can make his mistakes, learn from them, and then get back on the field and try to correct them and get better and get better and get better, like Jalen Phillips has. Jalen Phillips doesn't look as lost anymore as he did early on in the season, but that's how it's supposed to be. Javon Holland has been making plays all throughout, but obviously he was kind of a part-timer, and then he's gotten into a full-time, and he's gotten the confidence is built up, and now he knows what the hell he's doing. So he's a completely different player out there, but it's a process. And and some guys haven't been able to go through that process. And right now, I believe the Dolphins offensive line is just a beaten down group mentally and physically. And I think it's really hard right now. They're going to need an off season to rebuild the confidence. They're going to need an off season with a true offensive line coach to actually break them back down again and build them back up again fundamentally, physically, mentally, all of those things. It's just, it's a tough situation.